Ooh, this is paradise.
We've been so busy, we haven't had a chance to really enjoy the lake.
Yeah, I really missed her.
Her. The lake is definitely her.
She is a her because back in Puerto Rico, we call the ocean Yemaya. And we call the rivers Oshun. So guess what? The lake has to be a woman.
I know Lake Michigan is a woman. And she is a fashionista. She understands that fashion and style isn't about labels, it's not about logos, it's not about brands, it's not about designers, it's about self-expression and creativity. It's one more way of showing the world who you are, and it's just a slither of who you are. She is 14,000 years old. So this is a woman who is not dressing to impress anybody but herself. But she does dress for her moods and her seasons. So one day you'll see her in her sweatpants. You know, the ones that are so old that the string is gone and the elastic is shot, so she has to roll them down to keep them on her hips. They are so comfortable that she is never getting rid of them, because she understands how long it takes for something to get that comfortable. But the next day, she's gonna have on the tightest, corseted, black sequin gown. Sequins so heavy that they hit the floor and make a thud. This dress is so tight, there are no long strides. Every step is measured, and you have to pay attention when she walks. And to set this outfit off, there are long black leather opera gloves. Spring, that's her hardest season to figure out what to wear. She understands that the winds and the rhythm will change in an instant. And the day promises you one thing and shows up as another, kind of like this week in Chicago. It's also time that she's gained a little bit of winter weight. So she doesn't quite know what fits more. So you'll see her in front of her mirror, and behind her, clothes are all over the bed. She grabs her favorite outfit from last season and tries it on, and yeah, that doesn't work anymore. And then she tries another one that she wasn't as fond of, but somehow this season, this feels better. And there's a pile in the corner. All that's going to Goodwill. Summer arrives. Now, this is her busy season. Millions and millions of people will be on her shores and in her water, from the Upper Peninsula in Michigan all the way down to Gary, Indiana, Miller's Beach. She is busy. She's got a lot of entertaining to do. So it's caftan season. She's wearing navy with a train, Ceylon blue off the shoulder on the bias, cut up the side. And she's got this really beautiful peacock number with the bell sleeves. That's her favorite. By late May, she's decided on a palette of teals and turquoises, the ones that shimmer in the sunlight and they almost look green. She pulls out her jewelry. She has bracelets and anklets and necklaces and rings made out of fishing line and fishing net, deflated beach balls, lost children's toys, seaweed, freshwater pearls. By the end of the summer, she's wearing shades of amber and gold and copper. She wears sundresses made of long, lazy afternoons. Fall. Fall, that's a season of contradictions because she's layering. She's wearing denim on top of silk, leather on top of linen, cowboy boots and shorts, tank tops and sweaters. Slowly, the temperature drops and people aren't in the water. They take their boats. Not many people come to her shores anymore. She's spending a lot more time by herself, with herself. She's got time now to think, and she reflects on the year. And if you see her now, she's naked, wearing a gray cashmere sweater. She's pondering one more year of thousands of years. And she sees her scars. And she touches them to remind herself. Some of these scars are ancient. And some of these scars are brand new. They represent all of the pain and the joy and the tribulation and the triumphs that she's seen. They represent everything that she has ever held and everybody that she has ever held. She puts away her summer clothes and she puts away her spring clothes and she packs up her fall contradictions. And she pulls out her black blue ice coat. This coat is lined in moonlight and it has stars for buttons on the collar and on the sleeves. And she wraps herself up tight and she pulls her hood up and she settles in. And in her solitude, she waits and she waits for her edges to freeze and her surface to still.
Well, I know the lake is a woman. In fact, she's a single lady on the dance floor. And I know this because she caught my bridal bouquet. Now, let me tell you how we got here. We were planning for our wedding. My mother and I went to meet with the florist, and I gave him a picture of what I thought would be the perfect bridal bouquet. It had red roses, purple irises, and pink and white astromeria flowers. And the florist looked at it and he says, classic, elegant. And I said, in my head, yes, that will be me, the classically elegant bride. The day came. We're on the second floor of the church. There's a big, long box with all the flowers that the florist had left. The men's boutonnieres were picked up and taken to the other room. All the corsages for my mother-in-law, the aunties were delivered accordingly. And then each mini bouquet for the bridesmaids were passed out. At the bottom of the box was a bouquet that was 24 red roses. I looked inside and I said, where's my bouquet? The wedding planner said, Shelley, that's your bouquet. The florist called and said, this morning, all of his purple flowers were dead, so he made you this instead. And I said, nope, that's not my bouquet. I am not carrying that thing down the aisle. By this time, the groomsmen were in place. The bridesmaids were lined up. It was just my mother, the wedding planner, and me having a complete standoff. Pick up the bouquet and let's go. Pick up the bouquet and let's go. And I was like, I'm not going. I can't do this. Eventually, the wedding planner stood in front of me and said, Shelley, no one knows what you asked for in your bouquet. Now pick up the bouquet and walk down the aisle. So I did. We got married. The bridesmaids got in one car, the groomsmen got in the other. We got in the limo to go to the lake, right behind Lara Vida Hospital to take pictures. We get there, the bridesmaids are already there. They're reapplying their lipstick. They're ready for photos. We get out of the limo. The men weren't there. Apparently, the limo had run a red light. And this is 25 years ago. Nobody had a phone on their person. There was no GPS in cars. They weren't from Chicago. They only had the address of the reception at the South Shore Cultural Center. So we took pictures with the bridesmaids. We got to the wedding reception, and I left the bouquet in the back of the limo. I didn't need it anymore. I mean, we weren't planning on any of the traditional things that people do at wedding receptions. I was not throwing the bouquet to the single ladies. I didn't even wear a garter. My something blue was a pair of electric blue thong underwear tucked beneath my petticoat and my dress for only my new husband to see. We went away on our honeymoon. We came back to my parents' house to open presents and to plan for thank you notes. I opened the door and the house was filled with every purple flower known to nature. Apparently, my mother had given the florist some feedback. And he heard how upset I was about not having my classically elegant bouquet. And there on the coffee table was my big, loud, bold, red bridal bouquet. I couldn't tell if it was haunting me or taunting me. We put the presents in the trunk of the car and I threw the bouquet back there with it. I drove around with that bouquet in the trunk of my car for like 2 weeks. I didn't know what to do. Eventually one day, I turned my car towards the South Shore Cultural Center and I parked my car in the parking lot. I picked the bouquet up out of my trunk of my car and I walked underneath the window of the ballroom where we had had our first dance. I walked up to the edge of the water. I took a big wish for a long, happy married life, and I tossed the bouquet into the water. And she caught it. She caught it, she played with it, the waves rocked it back and forth, all the dried petals scattered everywhere. I watched it for a while. And then I turned my back on the lake, got into my car, and drove in to the rest of my life.
Well, I know the lake is my great-grandmother because when you see her, you see me. She is pure and strong, despite the rocks that people have thrown her way. And on the surface, she's calm, but beneath it, she carries the stories of my ancestors. And I've watched her change, constantly shifting every moment of every day. She is the gentlest soul. But don't get it twisted, she will send some power if you send a storm her way. I know the lake is my great-grandmother because the grass is greener when you're near her. She brings calm. And she never stops moving, always watching and carrying and nurturing. Through her, life continues. Without her, my bloodline ends. My great-grandmother Rose was a fierce woman. And just like me, she had curves that could turn heads and her storms could change landscapes. And even when she was surrounded on all sides, she still pushed against the shore. She's a legend. And I know because her stories have continued to live on, whispered secrets at kitchen tables filled with laughter and awe. She is a force of nature. Unpredictable yet dependable, strong yet gentle. She's stubborn. And don't you dare think you're gonna fight with her because one wrong move and she will knock you off your feet. She has cradled babies to sleep, carried generations to safety, and built life from nothing, all while remaining magnificent. Waves filled with wonder. I know the lake is my great-grandmother because even though I fear her, I long to be near her. Her bosom has caught my tears. She's enveloped me in a hug, always respecting my boundaries until she can't. And just like the lake, depending on who you ask, you get a different version of my grandmother. To some, she is a mighty good time filled with countless laughs and oh, so much fun. Others will tell you of her rage. They'll uplift stories of how she turned them every which way but loose. Her waves are filled with wisdom. They tell the stories of all of my family members who came before her. Our struggles, our triumphs. And even though she doesn't exist in her current form and my children will never know her, she continues to watch them silently in the background, letting them play in her waves, but never allowing them to drift too far. Always gently rocking them back to shore if she sees danger come her way. And my family still gathers around her for meals. She still sings to us. The blues and moments when I'm sad, upbeat jazz when I'm happy. And although she has gone on and changed into an ancestor, I'm so grateful that even in this day, I can still wade in her waters.
The lake is the woman because she has this bridge that carries us over land and draws us to her. So I grew up believing that there were 4 seasons. And then came Chicago. There are 2, winter and construction. And so when you want to build something or you want to do something, you need a plan. Then after the plan, you need the funding. And then after funding, you need the workers. And then finally, they'll start doing some work. Ever tried to get a pothole filled in this city? One pothole takes forever and a day. So you can imagine my excitement when I saw the pieces of the Blue Bridge finally start getting delivered. Piece by piece, rivet by rivet, they finally started building her. I was so excited to see her come into life. So in that excitement, I read in the paper that it was going to be open to the public, where you could walk or ride your bicycle across the 43rd Street Blue Bridge. So one morning, I was way too coffeeed up to sit down and start work. And so I heard it. She said, "Come to the lake." Then she called my name, Ruby. Come to the lake. Well, I had to heed the call. So I went out to the garage and I got out my bicycle. Anybody got a bicycle here? So I got out my bicycle. I dusted it off because it was during COVID and I hadn't been on it much. And wouldn't you know it, it was on a flat. And I thought, no, I'm not going to let this deter me. I got the pump out. I pumped up the tire. I put on my helmet and I headed out towards 43rd. Well, I started pedaling and it was slow. And then I got excited and I switched my gears. And before I knew it, I was flying down 43rd, just like when I was a kid. And then I got to the store down there on 43rd and Lake Park. And the brothers were out there doing what they do. I don't have to tell you what it is because y'all know what it is. And I said, oh my goodness. They're out here doing what they do. And a neighbor of mine had named that store, kind of nicknamed it, the Stop and Rob. And so I'm on a nice bicycle and I'm thinking to myself, uh-oh. So I looked at the brothers. They looked at me. I said, hey, baby, how you doing? And I got on my bicycle and I just rolled on. Then I got to the foot of the bridge and I saw her arch was steep. I said, oh my goodness, do I have the pedal power to make it? And so anybody will tell you, any good man will tell you that a woman like that is going to be hard to get over. Because, you know, she got some curves and she can make some moves. So I thought to myself, let me just back up a little bit. Let's get to pumping. And before I knew it, I got to the arch of the bridge. And when I looked up there and I saw her in all of her glory, Lake Michigan, she was beautiful. And then I marveled at how fortunate we are to live so close, within blocks of that magnificent body of water. Now, let me tell you about the bridge. Because you see, that bridge is made of steel. She's strong and she's healthy. And anytime you look at her at night, she glows and she lights the way. So I know the lake as a woman because her bridge is me.
For me, the lake is fluid feminine energy. Some say that she existed even before God because in the beginning there was water and darkness, and others say that she was created by the Spirit of God hovering over creation. Whatever you believe, one thing we know for sure, she is mother. She carries life within her. In fact, there is no life without her elements. And we mimic her as we carry life in our own watery places. And although she has been around for countless generations, she doesn't show her age. She has this youthful quality about her. She still giggles when she runs up on the sand. And she can hold you up if you let her. Have you ever been in a room and seen a woman just sitting there, not saying a word, but she has this presence? The lake is just like that, her stillness, commanding. The lake is also like Big Mama. Her deepness, her wisdom from all the seasons that she's seen and all the storms that she has weathered. Big Mama. But she has rules. And if you don't obey her rules, if you don't learn her lessons, she can give you a cold splash of "didn't I tell you?" and then taking you down just long enough to feel her power. She will make you respect her. I know the lake is a woman. You know what? 71% of the earth is covered by water. 50% of humanity is composed of women, yet we both struggle to really be recognized and cared for, which brings me to my final point. I know the lake is a woman because of how we disregard her. We find it easier to pollute her than protect her. We find it easier to violate her than value her. We are so eager to ride her waves, jump in and out of her pleasure, leaving behind the debris of our good times. Yeah, definitely the lake is a woman. But like all powerful women, if you don't heed her lessons and you keep underestimating her, she could be the end of you.
Well, I know the lake is a woman. From the curves that rub against the rugged edges of our city, I know her to be still and placid, inviting, deep, complex, complicated even, and loud and raucous. Sometimes I go to her because I know that my prayers will be answered in the whispers in the wind. Sometimes I go because I know that I will be made fresh and new and clean because she will bathe me. She will hold me like a mother to her bosom and say, "Come here, baby. It's all right." And then there are those who consider her a playpen. Have you heard this? I say, toy with her at your peril. She is not one to be trifled with, because in one moment she can be still and placid, and in the next she is loud and roaring at you. "Come here, baby." And then there are times when you go to her for rebirth and renewal. See, I know she's a woman because she's a mother. She is a giver of life. The tiniest creatures are born from within her. They rise to the surface and they take form. Only a woman can do that. Only a woman can bring that to bear. Here's what I also know. We underestimate her power sometimes. We forget that it is our responsibility to revere her and to respect her and to treat her with kindness and respect and a little bit of humility, because if you don't, she'll show you who she is. I know the lake is a woman, but I also know that as a woman, we fully underestimate all of her power. Thank you.
I've always respected her. She reminds me a lot like us. Strong, powerful, fierce. That's why I joined Soul Collective. Thank you. Put your hands together for Mariah's Peace by Terry Johnson.
Right, Terry.
It's July. And the Johnson-Williams-Booker family reunion / beach party is about to begin. The cousins, the aunts and uncles are converging at 63rd Street Beach. You can hear the joy in their greetings. "Hey, baby, come here. Let me look at you. I ain't seen you since last year. You have grown so much. Let me see your muscles." "What's up, cuz? Bacon coming today?" "Nah, man. The baby is sick, so he's got to stay home." "Yeah, man, I am so glad my kids are grown. Those newborn years are rough." Beulah, slow down. I know it's a new hit, but you don't want to fall again. Come here and give your grandpa some sugar. Tables are being set up. Chairs are being unfolded. Blankets are laying down. There is so much food. And because this is a Black family event, there is so much foil. Foil pans filled with chicken and ribs, and the empty foil pans for the hot dogs and the hamburgers to come. Colorful, mixed-matched Tupperware. Tupperware that is older than some of the people at the picnic. Filled with bean salad and potato salad, coleslaw and fruit salad. 5 coolers are lined up next to the table for the ice and the pop and the water. And you know, the adult beverage. Family favorite, bourbon slushes. And of course, the homemade ice cream. Uncle Julius is walking up to the table. He just got that watermelon on Stony Island. He puts it down on one of the coolers and says, I know this one's gonna be ripe this year, I promise y'all. This is a party that does not start until the official anthem has been played. For this family, it's summer madness. Cool in the Gang, not the Fresh Prince. After that, it's a medley of eras where you got some Chaka Khan mixed in with some Earth, Wind, and Fire and some Sly and the Family Stone. You got some Whispers and some Motown. You got to play the Drifters for Big Mama. Yes, there will be Beyonce and there will be hip hop, but not until the Frankies arrive. Beverly and Knuckles. Everybody settles in, and Big Mama says to nobody in particular, you know, when I was growing up, Black folks couldn't go past 61st Street. No one answers her, they just nod in agreement. They all somehow understand that this is not just a remembrance, but it's a reminder. Right next to the table, there's a little girl. And she is sitting still because she has had not one, not two, but 3 aunts tell her, if you don't sit down and sit still. She's in trouble because she went to the water park without permission. She's wrapped up in a towel and can't really go anywhere. So she's watching, she's paying attention to her family. And she sees a circle of the aunts and their cousins sitting at their feet, listening to the stories and asking questions about the history. And there's a table next to the table, there are 2 aunts rearranging the food for some reason she doesn't quite understand. And they're having the same argument they've been having since 2010. Girl, I gave you that cake plate. Dominoes are going, bid whist is going. The little girl is startled because Uncle Junius, the one who brought the watermelon, jumps up and starts screaming because he just ran a Boston in your face. The teens have now decided it is a time to teach the elders the latest line dance. Now, she's getting restless. She said long enough. She decides she's going to go see her Aunt Mariah. Aunt Mariah is her daddy's sister, and that's her namesake. And all of her life, she has heard, you look just like her, and you act just like her. Mariah, as always, is sitting just close enough to the family to be in the mix, but just far enough away to have her own spot. And it's as if the Aunt Mariah knows the little girl's coming because she looks up and says, are you ready to go down the lake with me? Yes, please. So they leave the grass and they go onto the sand and they get to the water's edge. And the little girl's trying to figure out where to put her feet because she doesn't want to stand on the pebbles and she doesn't want to cut her foot on the green glass. But on her right, it's fine. She's standing still and she takes a big sigh. And Aunt Mariah says, I think this is my favorite place in the world. The little girl quietly asked, Aunt Mariah, is she alive? Oh yeah, baby, she's very much alive. And not only does she give life, but she can take it away. How deep does she go? Oh, no one really knows. There are places in her that are so deep, they've never seen light. What's her name? Mariah doesn't answer at first. She takes a minute to think and says, she's older than words and older than language. The first people of the Ojibwe call her Nibi, and they call her Mishigami. And I've heard other people try to name her. They call her the cold truth. They call her the quiet place. They call her the vessel, cradle, the threshold. Well, what do you call her? Oh, I call her peace. Little girl pauses and she's frowning and she's thinking really hard. Mariah, I am going to call her beautiful. Beautiful? Like blue and beautiful? That is so clever. No, that's the name of a crayon. I call her with that. And the first time all day, Aunt Mariah laughs. And Aunt Mariah is one of those people whose laugh is bigger than her body and it shakes the atmosphere when she laughs. The two of them just stand there for a while and watch the seagulls dance in the waves. Aunt Mariah, will she remember me? Will she know me when I come back? And now Aunt Mariah kneels next down to the little girl and says, sweetie, not only will she remember you, she belongs to you. Just like you belong to me. And she holds the little girl tight, and the little girl nuzzles in her aunt's neck. And for a minute, it's just the two of them in the whole world. Until somebody shatters that moment with, y'all better hurry up. This ice cream is melting. Well, I guess we better go back. We don't want to miss the ice cream and the cake. And so they start to walk back to the party. They walk out of the water. They walk into the sand and into the grass. And the little girl takes a moment and looks back at the water as if she's saying goodbye and says quietly to herself, no one else can hear this. She belongs to me. Thank you.
Please enjoy Force of Nature by Shelley A. Davis.
So when I was growing up here on the south side of Chicago, sometimes we'd have these huge weather events, right? Like sometimes the lake's level would rise really high and then these big winds would come through and push the waves onto Lakeshore Drive and flood it. And they had to close Lakeshore Drive for a couple of days until the water receded. Remember that? Or we would have blizzards that closed Chicago public schools for days, sometimes many days, right? To the point that us public school kids would have to stay in school like till mid-June, where the private school kids got to go to the beach or go to camp or just play outside. Or sometimes on a really humid day, the sky would suddenly turn purple and the National Emergency Broadcast System alert would come on and interrupt television. And then my mother would make me go down to the basement and listen to a crackly transistor radio to see if a tornado had hit, to see if it was okay to stop sheltering in place. That was weather. That was forces of nature. At least that's what I thought. Then I started working. And I had a new boss. And it was my job to drive new boss around town. I was supposed to introduce new boss to our community partners so she could learn all about their mission and programs and how we could best be supportive of them. On this day, I was driving new boss to the west side to see a brand new early childhood education center. This place was beautiful. It was made of glass and steel. When you went inside, you could see the natural light trickling in. The leaders of the program talked about the value of early childhood education and how critical brain development was between the ages of 0 to 5. We were inspired. We were in awe. We got back into my car and new boss says, "Wow, women in Chicago are just a force of nature." I didn't really know what she meant. I had never heard that before. I couldn't tell if she was placing a compliment or lobbing a criticism. New boss was from Texas and she had a little twang in her voice, and so I didn't know if she meant like something like, "Well, bless her heart. God bless her soul." Whatever she meant, it landed with me like a combination of condescension and paternalism. It left me feeling icky. So lately, I've been in a lot of doctors' offices. I've met a lot of nurses. I've met a lot of nurses' assistants. I've met a lot of technicians. I've been in and out of the hospital. During one of my hospital stays, it's 2 a.m., I rang the nurse call button. And my nurse came in and she was beautiful. Black woman with perfectly appointed makeup. Her hair was freshly braided. She had a silk scarf that she used as a headband. She had a Chanel pink lanyard that was holding her keys and her work ID. She took care of me, and like all of the nurses, especially the nurses of color, I would always ask them, "Do you like your job? How did you get here?" She told me that she had started her career working in a senior center, leading recreational activities, and she was told she was good at it. So she decided to come work at the hospital so she could be trained as a nurse. Then she went on to tell me that she had 5 children, an 18-year-old girl, a few in between, ending with a 10-year-old boy. She told me the 18-year-old was about to finish high school and that she was expecting her first child, my nurse's first grandchild. She said at first she was nervous and sad that her daughter was having a child so young. But then she remembered that she was her daughter's age when she had her daughter. And she was confident that her daughter and the grandbaby would be okay because they would be surrounded by a village of friends and family that would help her take care of the baby. She started staring out the window, and even though it was pitch black, all of the twinkling lights in the city were just gleaming. She turned to me and said, "Thank you." And I said, "Thank you back. Like, thank you for sharing your story with me." She left, and I wondered, maybe she, my nurse, is the force of nature. Like, why do we only think about forces of nature for women that can build buildings and provide services that every family deserves anyway? Like, what about the women that get dressed up to work in the middle of the night where less people see them? That's such low expectations about anybody being curious about them. And there must be other kinds of forces of nature, right? Like many, many kinds of forces in nature in between women that build buildings and women that take care of people. What we do know about Chicago women is that we have the vision, the stubbornness, the tenacity, the fierceness to change the weather. Thank you.
Nice job, man.
Our next performer is coming in hot. Her bright vibrations keep every rehearsal and gathering as warm as the summer day. Don't let her reverend title confuse you, as we all saw earlier today, right? She is the epitome of summertime shy. Please enjoy Perspectives by Michelle Hughes.
I've always lived 12 minutes from Lake Michigan. Down 67th Street to Laura Beta, down 71st Street to South Shore Country Club, and down 75th Street to Rainbow Beach. But to quote the immortal words of Parliament, never learned how to swim, don't know the rhythm of the stroke, don't make me hold my breath because I may choke. Never could swim, never will swim. Ooh, but I had to have that swimsuit. I had to have it. Oh, mama, please, can I have it? I'll wash the dishes. I'll take out the garbage. Please, can I have it? You should have seen it. It was 3-piece ensemble, gradient tones of yellow, orange, and fire engine red, a 2-piece with a cover up and a little drawstring bag for my undies and my towel. It was stunning. I begged and finally, reluctantly, my mother bought me the outfit. Well, I was so proud. I could not wait for those little 8th grade girls of taste and good breeding who shopped places other than Frank's on 75th and Cottage, had grown past Robert Hall. No, this ensemble was from Sears on 79th. Up the escalator to the right to the junior miss department. And it was on the mannequin gradient tones of yellow, orange, and fire engine red. I knew they had to have seen it, and I was going to have it. I mean, I needed this outfit. I was about 12 years old, and I was so tired of being in that little girl phase. I needed something more than bangs and pierced earrings to let the world know that I was becoming a young woman. And this was the outfit that would do it. I was gonna be a caramel version of Patty Duke herself. We were gonna walk alike and talk alike. Now we're gonna have 2-piece suits alike. It was the 60s. And I grew up watching Donna Reed and Father Knows Best and Sally Field as Gidget. And I believed that all white people lived like that they all had perfect houses and manicured lawns and little white picket fences. So can you imagine my confusion when the first time I was robbed, it was by some little white girls? Okay, let me tell you what happened. So, for the first time, me and my friends got to go to the beach all by ourselves. No adults, no parents. Oh, we were so grown up. And I remember it was me, Alice, Butch, and Brenda. Now, Butch and Brenda were almost grown. I mean, they were 16, they were in high school. So they were in charge. But although I was only 12, I liked Butch. Oh, I liked him. He was tall and he was chocolate. And his friends drove cars. And he smoked cigarettes. I just liked him so much and couldn't wait for this moment where we were going to take this long stroll to the beach. So we get our stuff together. We had bologna sandwiches with Wonder Bread. We had peanut butter sandwiches, and we had red pop wrapped in foil. We decided to walk and not take the bus because we needed that money for the Good Humor Man. Y'all remember the Good Humor Man? Now, to get to the beach from Park Manor where we lived, we had to walk to and through South Shore. Now, believe it or not, back then, South Shore was 71% white. Black people had just started moving in. So we get ready and we start this leisurely stroll on 75th Street to the beach. And it was wondrous. Oh, we felt so emancipated. And I remember we found this big tree. And of course, I mean, we were young. We didn't have lawn chairs. We had beach towels. And we spread out our towels and we just ran into the water and out of the water. And when it was time to go, I get my little drawstring bag, you know, the one with the matching outfit. Did I tell you it had cap sleeves? Anyway, I get my bag and I go into the girls' washroom. And I take off my wet swimsuit and I get out my towel. I get out my cover up. I put it on the door. I dry up and I look up. It's nothing there. It probably fell. So I open the door and I don't see anything. I hear some snickering in the background. So I think somebody kicked it. So I come out further and look. Again, I don't see anything. And I turn to just see this sea of pale faces looking back at me. And I thought they probably put my clothes in the garbage. I go look in the garbage can and it's nothing there. No gradient tones of orange and yellow and fire, engine red. And then my stomach sinks. Oh my God, what is my mother going to say? My heart starts beating so fast. And then I go back into the stall and I sit there with just my undies and my sandals, and it dawns on me, they stole my clothes. They stole my clothes. I mean, you gotta understand, at 12 years old, the world I came from, it was always us who misbehaved. It was always us that they said was dishonest. We were the ones that always took things. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I remember sitting there in that bathroom stall. I remember it being stinky and damp, gritty. And I just sat there. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I don't know how long I was in there. I must have been in there a really long time, because then I hear this voice, yo, Michelle, where you at? It was Butch. He had come in to the girls' bathroom to look for me. I thought he was so brave. I told him what happened, and he just took off his white t-shirt and handed to me over the door. And he was so tall, it came way below my knees. And I remember when we were walking home, he kept making me laugh. He wouldn't let me be sad. That day at the lake, I learned some valuable lessons. You know, so often we are told that the primary indicator of our success is our proximity to whiteness. But that day at the lake, I learned that sometimes, that proximity to whiteness can be perilous. And sometimes, being tolerated can hold hidden anger and resentment. That day at the lake, I discovered the understanding and protection of a young Black man, loud talking and lengthy, that walked with a swagger, that smoked cigarettes, who the world still depicts as always the predator, always the untrustworthy one, always the one to be feared. But that day, he was my hero. That day I learned that so often the pictures that the world paints for us, the stories that the world tells us, is so often just a lie. Thank you.
Our next storyteller is often the calm in the storm. Much like the water, her creativity is ever evolving. Her dedication to our mission helps propel us forward. Sunny with a Chance of Growth by Ayanna Clark.
People always notice India first. She was beautiful and outgoing and so damn loud. She was a sun person. She was bold and bright and in your face and impossible to ignore. And me, I am more like the lake. I am calm and gentle until you disturb my waves. But for the most part, I thrive in the background. See, India had mastered arriving, and me, like a magician, had mastered disappearing. Now, to this day, I still don't know how we became friends. Okay, so actually, that's a lie. India became friends with me because I would have happily spent the rest of my life avoiding eye contact and going home early if India hadn't decided otherwise. Now, when I was 11, I had transferred from an all-Black school to a majority white school. And so to fit in, I tried out for something called the Halloween show. And after about an hour of learning Michael Jackson's Thriller choreography from a chunky white woman who surprisingly could dance her ass off, I started to do what I always do. And as I was retreating to the back of the stage, I heard the loudest voice going, "Oh my God, it's a Black girl!" See, India was surprised because up until I came, she was the only black person in the theater club. Just a bold ballpoint pen and a sea full of printer paper. And in that moment, I was stuck, kind of like a deer in the headlights, terrified and unable to move. And I felt us being pulled closer together like magnets, and I couldn't break away because the thing about India is that once she decides that she belongs to you, you kind of do. Some people would say she kidnapped me. I was her weird theater friend that she would drag along for whatever mischievous adventure she decided for the day. And we went everywhere. I mean, on long walks, carrying a pan of chicken and planning for the future, running from the ghosts in our school's auditorium, or that one time we snuck over the gate at the LL Cool J concert. Meeting strangers who would become stories that we still laugh about years later. I mean, that girl treated every moment of our teenage years like it just had to be memorable. And I'm so grateful for her because she was a light when I needed her the most, breaking through the clouds in my life and making waves in my so calm demeanor. And India didn't care that I was poor or that my clothes often weren't clean. She would dig in her closet and get me something to wear when I was skinny, and she would steal something out of her sister's closet when I gained weight. She was my refuge. When my home life became unbearable, she was a listening ear. She taught me how to take up space. And more importantly, she taught me that I deserved love before I ever knew it for myself. I remember when I was 17 and home life had become unbearable. And we were sitting on her porch eating a pan of chicken as we always did. And I told her that I wanted to die. And in that moment, she didn't comfort me. She threatened me. She said, girl, if you kill yourself, I will bring you back to life and kill you again. Now shut up and eat this $15 pan of chicken. And that was it. I lived because India decided that I would. And listen, being friends with a sun person is exhausting because the girl never sat down. Every single adventure started with, girl, just trust me, which historically were the last words before chaos. Like the summer before I went to college, right? My parents told us we could go to McDonald's, but we had a curfew. And because we were teenagers and because the man taking our orders were cute, we missed curfew. And so on the way home, India devised a plan. We were gonna pretend that we were upstairs the whole time, and we would creep down and we would attack my parents with pillows and they wouldn't know. Okay, now even back then, that plan did not make sense to me. But me being a lake person, I just went with the flow. And so we crept into the door and we snuck down the stairs, and I got scared, so I just threw my pillow and tried to race back up the stairs. But the problem was I had on flip-flops. So as I went up the stairs, my shoes went down the stairs, and next thing I know, India is at the top of the stairs yelling, "We got a casualty!" And I look down and all I see is blood and bone. Now what followed was a very long trip to the emergency room with a very angry pregnant mother. And we sat until 2 a.m. waiting to get 8 stitches in my arm. And my mama wanted to be so mad, but she couldn't because India just kept cracking jokes the entire time. And that's what's so special about her. She didn't just light up rooms. She really warmed people. She was the yin to my yang. I would discourage her bad decisions and she would encourage mine. Life was perfect. Until one day, the sun decided that she was moving west. She came home for a visit and said, I'm moving to California. California. Of course, California, because that's where the sun shines the brightest. And it felt like the most India thing possible, no job, no plan, no apartment, just packing up her dog and her wife and heading to the West. And I remember feeling so selfish about it because what happens to the lake when the sun leaves? Maybe I'd freeze, maybe the waves will return, maybe the warmth that she brought with her would leave. But the thing about being a lake is that we can carry warmth too. And so even though she's thousands of miles away, it's almost like she never left. Phone calls, voice notes, random memes at 2 a.m. We have the type of friendship that no matter how much time passes, we just pick up in the middle of the conversation. Last year, the sun blew in for a visit. Still bold and bright, still India, but dimmer somehow. And after about 20 minutes of random conversation and pretending everything was okay, India dropped a bombshell. She was getting a divorce. And for the first time in my life, the sun looked tired of shining. Now, here's the thing. I am not a relationship expert. I do not do well with heartbreak, and I am barely emotional stable myself. But the benefit of being a lake is that you become an expert in carrying people through storms. And so I said to my friend, just trust me. And I handed her an edible and I dragged her downtown. And the next thing I know, we are wandering around the Museum of Illusions high as astronauts. I mean, laughing at the installations and freaking out in the tunnel that was moving way too fast, even though we were technically standing still. Next thing I know, we are traveling through downtown like we are our teenage selves with no curfew and nowhere to go. And in that moment, I realized something. That after 20 years of friendship, I had developed my own son. Me, the lake person. The girl who used to retreat to the back of the room was now slowly pulling my best friend toward joy. And in that moment, I realized that we talk so often about how much the lake needs the sun for warmth. But that day I realized how much the sun needs the lake too. Thank you.
Our next Soul Sister's voice will rock you to peace. She is deep, gentle, and oh so calm. Her presence is calming. We all draw energy from her stillness, depth, and reflection. Sharing her story, Peace and Power, welcome Karen Norrington Reeves.
Children have a way of saying plain spoken thoughts that can jar you. And so it was this day where I was at the edge of a pool and looked down at my son, and a little girl looked and said, "Is he dead?" "No, baby, he's just practicing floating." He looks dead to me. So, this is how this began. I have a very large extended family, and we had gotten an invitation to an event at a hockey rink. It was July. We were dressed both for winter and summer. And while we were there, we got an invitation to another family member's party. It was someplace up north and out west. And so, because we had been estranged from this family member, we all decided that we would go. No one told us it was a pool party. So we get to the party, and I, like any self-respecting parent, did what you would do when your child is begging you to get water, absent a swimsuit. Baby, you don't have trunks. Go play in the bouncy house. But peer pressure is something else. And it doesn't just work teenagers, it works on adults too. I heard, Girl, you know you need to let that baby get in the water. Oh, I'll be in the water. I'll watch the kids. It's okay if you get in with him. And mommy, please. And then we'll find them some trunks. So, against my wisdom, I let my 5-year-old boy get in the pool with this rule. Sweetie, you're still learning to swim. You stay in the shallow end. Okay? There was every manner of floaty, noodle, life vest, you name it. All the toys, all the kids, you stay down here. So there were big kids in the water. What do big kids do in the swimming pool? Terrorize little kids by splashing them mercilessly, to the point where we adults intervened and said, hey, big kids, get in the deep end. Leave the little kids alone. Big kid, okay. Slump off to the deep end. Unbeknownst to me, I, little kid with the big heart, decided to go over and apologize to the big kid for him getting in trouble. And he thought the smart thing to do at 5 was to walk from the shallow end to the deep end. Also unbeknownst to me was that the lady who had volunteered to be in the pool with in the shallow end with the kids had gotten a phone call and had stepped away. And so there I was at the table when another little cousin runs up and says, where's Alex? He's in the water. No, he's not. What do you mean he's not in the water? He's in the water. He was in the pool with you guys in the shallow end. I didn't see him. So I go over to the pool's edge, and there he is, floating. I see water right around the sides of his mouth. Now, when people are drowning, most of us are accustomed to seeing the movies where it's this big old splashing mess. Well, guess what? That's not a sign of drowning in children. And when we float like this. A sign of drowning in children is this. And that's how I found my little boy. And he was also just dangerously over the side, the invisible line between the shallow and the deep end. And so I stand at the edge and I say, sweetie, come over this way. Come back over to the shallow end. Remember, that was our agreement. Come back over. And he flips over and does this soft doggy paddle. Yeah, that's also a sign of drowning in children that I did not know. And so the doggy paddle became an outstretched arm, and his almond eyes, deep brown eyes, looked hazel in the water as he began sinking to the bottom. Now, I remember as a child watching The Incredible Hulk, and you know how they would talk about how mothers would get superhuman strength and could like lift a car up off of a kid. I do not know consciously what happened in the rest of that moment. What I am told was that people came running because of my screams, and that I reached down into the water with one arm and I flipped my child out onto his knees. So he coughed. I remember picking him up and holding him. I remember the lady who I thought was in the pool, who was actually in the house answering the phone, come running out, and she snatches him out of my arms because I think she was trying to comfort herself because she felt bad, right? And so she's holding and she's touching him. And she's like, oh, he's okay, he's okay. I snatch my child back because he's mine. And he is screaming, Mama! Mama! And his arms are outstretched, reaching for this mama person, but I am she. But he doesn't know me. He is completely disoriented, and his eyes are still cast upward and fixed. So we take him over to a seating him, and I rock him, and I say, baby, are you with me? It's Mom. And nothing. There is no recognition. We decide to call 911. So we take him into the house where there is a bench in the kitchen, and we lay him on the bench. And after a moment, and I'm on the phone with the operator, and after a moment, an arc of water comes gushing out of him. It seemed like a tidal wave in that moment. And another minute later, another one comes. And then there was the ambulance ride. And at some point, he came back to himself. And they're wheeling him into the CAT scan. And I'm standing at the head of the gurney, and he looks up and says, "Mommy, where were you? I was calling for you." "I was right there, sweetie. I pulled you out of the water." "Oh, thank you for saving me, Mommy. Here's a sticker for you." And then it was 24 hours of observation, because the water does not require that you be in it for it to kill you. It just has to be in the wrong places in your body. And so he was on observation for dry drowning. 24 hours, the nurses said, "Eat." I couldn't. The nurses said, "Sleep." I wouldn't, because it was my fault. I had allowed this child, against my better judgment, to get in the water. A week later, my ex-husband called and he said, "Kay, you know you're going to have to let him get back in the water, right?" "I know." "You know it's not okay for him to be afraid, right?" "I know." And oh, by the way, that man couldn't swim. And so the next month was August, and it was his best friend's birthday party. And it was a what? Pool party. And so we go to the pool. Little man looked and he was like, "Nah." Went over to the splash pad. You know, the one where the babies crawl and there's barely an inch worth of water. And I knew we could not do that for the rest of his life, because we are vacation people. There was going to be a lake, a river, an ocean, a water park, a pool in his future. And so he was going to have to conquer this fear. So the next year we go to a water park and he looks at the water and he doesn't want to get in. And I keep reminding him, you know, you can read the numbers on the side and you can see how tall it is. There was one time he didn't want to get in. I was like, "Honey, it's 4'3". You're 4'8". Just stand up. Just put your feet on the bottom. So we went through summer after summer after summer of swim lessons. And now he's 13. And he's gone to the Y and he's done all the swim lessons, and we are out of the country and he is playing soccer tournaments. He's playing 3 and 4 games a day, and we're swimming in the ocean, and there's a pool at the hotel, and all the boys hopped up on big boy bravado, hop into the water, and he decides to swim from this side of the deep end to the other. And it happens again. The hell! This time, it was just a cramp. This time, it was the splashing around that we were accustomed to, and he calls out, and the lifeguard gets in and saves him. No trip to the ER, just a head bowed in shame and teenage embarrassment. Well, the next year was the pandemic, and I decided, you are going to master this. You should have a healthy fear of the water, but not one that paralyzes you, one that catalyzes you. And so you are going to learn to swim. And there were still places open during the pandemic, surprise, surprise. And there was a water place, a swim school with 2 tanks, one on the left side and one on the right. My daughter got in the left and he got in the right. And before I knew it, he was breaststroking and backstroking and even did the butterfly. I said, "Get it, boy." At the end of the summer, we decided to go to St. Joseph's in Michigan. It's on the beach. And one feature at the beach there is that it is shallow, quite shallow, for a very long distance, way more than a block out and way beyond the reach of a mother's arm. And I watched my kids on the horizon looking like little dots, popping up over here and popping up over there and swimming and flipping and enjoying every moment of it. And I sat on that beach with my feet in the sand and I looked out at Lake Michigan and I said to her, "I have made sure that he has a healthy fear of you. I have made sure that he knows how to swim in you and respect you and treat you with respect. And all I ask is that when I give him to you, you give him back to me unscathed. And she did. Thank you.
Our final storyteller is a lake in its deepest form. Her personality invites people in. We see ourselves mirrored in her waters. She is still but not stagnant, quiet yet present. Welcome Never Give In to the Undercurrent by Ruby Houghton Pitts.
So how many swimmers do I have out here today?
Never
I
learned.
love it. So you'll understand what I mean when I say give in to the undercurrent. So you see, this lake effect thing was kind of new to me. You know, water so deep that you can't see, and that you can look for miles and never see the other shore. Is that Michigan over there? A lot of us don't know. So you can imagine my concern when I heard about what Lake Michigan was doing. What Lake Michigan was doing, devouring men, women, and children. So now you see, I'm a swimmer. And I taught swimming. And my children learned to swim before they could walk. So you know how frightening it was for me to hear that we were losing so many people in Lake Michigan every single year. So here's my story. So my first foray into Lake Michigan was a special date with a special man. And we went to the store and we picked up wine and treats. And then we drove down Lake Michigan with the sunroof open. Ooh, it was a beautiful day. Gorgeous. And we got to the boat. It was a boat ride. And we met our captain when we boarded the boat. And I had some little reservations going on in my head. You know, I'd never been on an inland sea. Could Lake Michigan take me under? So I was a little bit scared, but it was a special date. So the boat went out. It was gorgeous. I had sun on my face, little wind, not big wind like what we've been having here lately. And I was pretty excited about the whole thing until I turned around and I looked, expecting to see Chicago's beautiful skyline. Y'all, it was gone. We were out in the middle of nowhere. And the captain dropped the anchor and said, "Who's ready to swim?" So he was all excited. So my special date jumped in the water, and I'm standing there thinking, what? But I went ahead and did a little dive, got in the water. So we swam and played with water toys and played with each other for a little while. And then I was laying there on my back, and I had forgotten about my fears and everything about an hour in the water. It was so luscious and warm. I couldn't believe it because I had anticipated that it was going to be cold water. So the captain then said, "Come on, get back in the boat." We climbed up the back of the boat and wrapped ourselves in warm, fluffy towels. And we sat there. And my special date popped the cork on a bottle of Pinot Noir. Can you just smell that wine right now? I could. And then we opened up the snacks and we had conversation about everything from politics and, oh God, no, not the politics of today. It was a while back. We talked about life. We talked about love. It was a glorious day. And then the captain said, come on, let's pack up. So we started putting everything away. And I got to thinking, there are so many people here in Chicago that have never seen Lake Michigan, never enjoyed her, won't let your children learn how to swim, to be able to enjoy that. And I thought, what a shame. And it was true. When I lived in Oregon and we jetted up and down the Willamette and the Columbia rivers, I met people that had never seen either of those rivers. So what it said to me was this: the lake and these great bodies of water are like your life power. They can either take you under and take you away from your goals and your desires in this life, or they can propel you forward so that you can do great things and have wonderful experiences with the ebbs and flows of life. So people, I just got one question for you today. Are you going to be a swimmer, or are you going to give in to the undercurrent? Thank you.
Let's hear it for Soul Collective! We have been telling stories together for 6 years, and I think this might be our 10th show. So thank you for celebrating with us.
All right, all right. Let's put your hands together for Awilda Gonzalez, Terry A. Johnson, Shelly A. Davis, Ayana Clark, Michelle Hughes, Karen Norrington Reed, Ruby Pitt. Give them another round of applause, everyone.